a small-town southern sheriff.
When he turn around, stick that taser to his head. If I had one last, up to him.
Accused of abusing his people and his power and ignoring a family's claims a county judge stole from a dead man.
Me and Tammy got 4 packs of cigarettes out there, so we figured he didn't need them no more.
Our investigations forced the sheriff's top investigator out of the shadows and the sheriff out of office.
When somebody violates that or violates you, report it. If nobody listens at the sheriff's office, go to SLED. If nobody listens at SLED, go to the FBI. If nobody listens at the FBI, go to Jody Parr. Find somebody that'll listen, and once they do, let the Lord handle the rest.
Sheriff Charles Lemon was the most powerful lawman in Marlboro County, South Carolina. A small rural county, a community once in the heart of tobacco country, now scarred by economic struggle. A place where public officials rule with unchecked power. Lemon was the one man responsible for enforcing the rule of law in the county. He's now accused of operating above it. Over the next hour, we'll show you the downfall of Sheriff Charles Lemon and the damage his own men claim he inflicted on the people of Marlboro County. Hollis Slade knew he was in trouble. After weeks of stomach pain, he called 911 for help. Slade was bleeding internally and could not move. His wife, Joyce, was trying to get him help, but she couldn't do much for her husband and stood by helplessly as medics loaded him into an ambulance. Joyce suffers from dementia and can't be left alone. A fireman hung around to make sure she was cared for.
How long have you two been together?
A
long time?
I can't tell you how many years off the top of my head.
What's the secret?
Just loving each other.
Just loving each other through it.
We've been married a long time. I can't tell you how many years because my memory is not as long as it used to be.
She didn't know it then, but she'd never see her husband again. 1 week shy of his 68th birthday, Hollis Slade was dead. Now, we should probably explain these security cameras. Slade installed them to protect his thousands of dollars in foxhounds and to watch out for his wife when he left home. Nothing moved in Slade's yard without those cameras catching it. The family provided the recordings to us. Within hours of Slade's death, those cameras recorded Matthew Tomlinson's arrival. Hollis Slade had mentored Tomlinson, and he was deeply involved in Slade's hound hobby. A bit later, Tomlinson returned with 3 others, his mother Charlotte Green, her boyfriend Ricky Gardner, and their friend Will Adams. The recordings show Adams making multiple calls to coroners. The recordings don't show why. Adams also worked to find Slade's family members to tell them about the death. The recordings also show the group going in and out of Slade's home.
I don't see nothing on the computer. I got to look through the files. Field trial missed. 99% of it.
And searching his property.
What the hell is that? Christmas present? 2 wheels from home. It might be.
No, it says 2 Hollis from Boston. He got a whole truck full of Christmas presents supposed to give him. Said he ain't opened yet.
The talk soon turns to who might end up with the things that belong to Hollis Slade and the things they didn't want to leave behind.
It's kind of like he got $2,000 worth of tracking collars sitting in there.
What about all the money in the bank?
It's unreal. Ain't no telling.
The 401k stack.
I hate to leave $2,000 worth of tracking collars and 2 garments sitting there.
This document was on Hollis Slade's computer, showing an accounting of those collars. There were 43 in all. Ricky Gardner's name was listed as the owner of 12 of those collars.
I swear I hate to leave all this.
It's going to be sad if somebody else comes.
Really get it. No, he didn't want him to have it.
He didn't want him to have it.
I know he didn't want him to have it. I heard him say it.
This whole room really is about Hollis.
Beth Slade Bowling is Hollis Slade's oldest sister. She found out about her brother's death in one of those calls Will Adams made outside her brother's home. Bowling and her daughter hopped in the car the next morning to make the 12-hour trip from Indiana. Meanwhile, in Marlboro County, Ricky Gardner was the first to arrive the next morning.
Hollis' sister, they're supposed to be here. They're supposed to be here this evening, 7, 8 o'clock or something.
The videos show this was the first time they were alone with Joyce. The cameras showed things soon started leaving the house and being loaded into Ricky Gardner's truck. The recordings showed this continued through the day, and sometime that morning, a woman who worked for the Marlboro County probate judge at the time showed up. That woman's name is Tammy Bullock. She had once worked with Hollis Slade at a paper mill he helped manage in town. She, too, did her share in the plundering. These cameras caught parts of conversations where Bullock, like the others, was there hunting for something specific.
He's loyal because we don't know his sister. We all taking turns rummaging through stuff and sitting in the car and trying to make her eat. And I'm hoping, his sister's supposed to be here.
I'm still scrolling. There's so many videos. My daughter saved them and we put them on a drive at home so that we could protect them.
When Beth Slade Bowling left Indiana for South Carolina, she knew it was going to be a tough trip. She had a funeral to plan. She had to make sure her sister-in-law was cared for. She also had to figure out what she needed to do to make sure her brother's estate was intact, so her sister-in-law could afford the around-the-clock care she'd need for the rest of her life. When Bowling and her daughter got to her brother's home, the first people they met at the top of the driveway, Charlotte Green and Tammy Bullock. You soon learned that there's someone fairly important at the house.
Yes. Pretty quickly, one of the people introduces herself, and then she says, well, I'm the probate judge. And I say, okay, good. We're probably going to need to work together then.
To be clear, that she is Tammy Bullock, and she wasn't the probate judge.
So, if anything comes up and you need to, you let them know that his secretary for the past 30 years is now a probate judge, and if they need me.
Bullock at the time worked in the Marlboro County Probate Judge's office and had been appointed, but her oath of office and her own Facebook page show she wasn't sworn in as the county's deputy probate judge until March 15th, 7 weeks after this meeting in Hollis Slade's driveway. So you thought you had help on scene?
Yes.
Were you relieved to know that someone who could take charge was there?
Yes. I actually thought, okay, God's, providing what I'm going to need to get through this, because this is going to be hard.
It was nearly 2 months later before she was sworn in as a deputy probate judge. Did that send off any alarm bells?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That basically confirmed what I was already figuring out from her activity at the house. Something's awry here. Something's not on the up and up.
Hollis Slade's family needed help and someone to trust. Can I talk to you about this letter you sent us?
I'm good.
That man was supposed to be the top law enforcer in Marlboro County. Hollis Slade's family wanted help. They turned to Marlboro County Sheriff Charles Lemon, who the family says promised an investigation. But it didn't take us long to uncover the sheriff did not keep his promise.
Coroner y'all have here in Bennettsville, in Marlboro County.
At the time, Beth Slade Bowling had no reason to suspect anything of any of the people at her brother's home. She thought they were his grieving friends. That's until the family had a chance to talk alone with Linda Hood, Joyce's former caretaker.
The caretaker said to me there were some things that had been taken out of the house that she thought I ought to get back fairly quickly. A handgun, a checkbook, a Ziploc bag full of cash, and the truck keys. That was concerning to me. It was like, why did they take those things out of the house?
This recording shows Hood was likely telling the truth. Charlotte Green was at the back of this truck.
I got that pistol out there.
And the video captured her admission that she took the pistol from the exact spot where the caretaker said she hid it.
And I took Miss Joyce's money and Hollis's money, and I put it in a sandwich bag, one of the quarts or the gallons. It was the big one.
How big would you estimate the bag with your hands? How big was it?
About like this. It was one of the big ones, and it was loaded with money.
A gallon bag?
A gallon bag. So I took all the money and put it in a bag and stuck it in the middle of her dresser. Charlotte told me she got all the money. They got Miss Joyce's pistol. It was a .38.
Hollis Slade hired Linda Hood to care for his wife, Joyce. She'd been with the family since 2017. Hood stayed overnight with Joyce Slade the night her husband died and left the next morning.
I would stay with her at night. They would come early in the morning, and when I get there, stuff was disappearing.
Slade Bowling messaged Charlotte Green asking her to return the things Linda Hood said they'd taken. The next day, Slade Bowling says Ricky Gardner handed her this box, a box that also belonged to Hollis Slade.
He returned a box, a Ziploc of cash, the handgun, and I think by then somebody had already brought the truck keys back.
What you told the family that was missing, they got back?
They got the money back, a little bit of money.
And the pistol?
And the pistol. They got a little bit of money because she showed me that bag. And the jury box. They got the money that was in the jury box. No, all that money wasn't in there.
They even joked about taking something out of Hollis Slade's truck.
Me and Tammy got 4 packs of cigarettes out of there, so we figured he didn't need them no more.
And that talk continued until minutes before Slade's family arrived.
I said, I'm not going to leave this money sitting in that house for complete strangers to come in and you not know what's going on with it. I said, you got to be paid? I said, the guys have got to be paid? I said, that paper is on the paper. Oh, yeah. It's on the speaker. It says retirement. It's like almost $200,000. She don't need to know that.
Slade had around 30 foxhounds and funded a hunting club that he, Ricky Gardner, and Matthew Tomlinson were all part of. One of the videos shows Gardner walking out of the house with what appears to be a registration certificate for one of Hollis Slade's hounds.
It looks just like this turned upside down. It has the same border, it has the seal. It's got to be dog certificates.
And those hunting collars Ricky Gardner mentioned earlier, the videos show Gardner walking out with a box with Garmin stamped across it. Slade had a rack built by his front door where he stored around 30 other collars. The same door where cameras captured Ricky Gardner carrying this large plastic tub out toward his truck. We could not confirm whether Gardner owned any of those collars.
These are the boxes that proves that Hollis had collars. They're the Garmin's TT15s, and they're the Garmin's TT10s.
After finding the videos, the Slade family fired Linda Hood and put everyone in the videos on trespass notice.
See, this is a whole entire set.
The family hired Kath Shockley to stay with Joyce Slade and to work to figure out what left the Slade home in those boxes.
These are completely different sets. Right here. That's the TT10s. And it also has the dog's names on them too. When he said $2,000 worth, he was correct. Okay, we have this. Where is this?
They cost a lot of money. And he used them when they went to the pens with his dog. Well, they got gone. The regular dog collars got gone. The wormer, all the liquid stuff, anything that pertained to a dog, they got it.
We asked every person in these videos for an interview. Only Ricky Gardner responded. He directed us to his attorney, but his attorney never responded to our outreach. We also asked Judge Bullock to meet with us. When we found her outside the courthouse a week later, she wouldn't stop long enough to talk. Well, we missed her. Bullock took off as soon as she spotted us. She came back a few minutes later with a Bennettsville police escort. We then went inside to finish our interview and found Judge Bullock's boss, probate judge Mark Heath, at the door. Hey, Judge.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Great.
We'd like to talk to you about Judge Bullock if you've got a second.
No comment. If you got any questions, you see her attorney, Mr. Wade, write it down. And I want you to write your information down.
We will. We'll be glad to do that. Who's her attorney?
Mr. Wade R. Crow.
Wade Crow wasn't only Tammy Bullock's attorney, he was also Joyce Slade's guardian ad litem until a few months before we came along. When we reached out, Attorney Crow told us he ordered Judge Bullock not to make any statements to us about this case. We also learned Bullock's boss, Judge Heath, was told about these allegations a few days after Slade's death in January 2021.
This was text to the probate judge, Mark Heath.
Bobby Norris was Hollis Slade's neighbor. He also officiated Slade's funeral. When Norris found out about Bullock's claims she was the county's probate judge, he got on the phone with Judge Heath to tell him what happened.
I saw the girls out here saying she's the probate judge and she was in charge of it. I said, I didn't know that was going on. New one on me. And I've been here all my life and I pretty well know what's going on in the town. That's one thing I do.
There's some criminal allegations been made against her. There are.
Not aware of them. Haven't been advised of them.
Well, you have.
Need to go to the sheriff's department.
Norris says Heath assured him he'd investigate, but 7 weeks later, Judge Heath swore Tammy Bullock in as his deputy probate judge.
And thank you, but we really don't have a response. There's not enough information at this point.
Do you care to know? I'm happy to share with you what we have.
I don't want to have any hearsay. I'll hear it in a courtroom.
Well, we've got video. This is all video recorded. This isn't just some hearsay.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Deputy Probate Judge Tammy Bullock resigned 3 weeks after our final disrespects investigation aired. Judge Mark Heath, who presided over the county's probate court for a quarter century, lost re-election 10 months after this interview. Hollis Slade's security cameras captured the moment his sister and niece arrived from Indiana and came face to face with a group of Hollis Slade's friends. And Ricky Gardner escorted them into the house.
Yeah, both of those are their vehicles. Everything else is something we're driving.
Who earlier that day, cameras showed him carrying things out of Hollis Slade's home. All while Slade's wife, Joyce, who suffers from severe dementia, was inside. He wasn't alone. The videos also showed Deputy Probate Judge Tammy Bullock and Charlotte Green plundering through Slade's truck. 3 days after Slade's death, after finding these videos, Beth Bowling was in a conference room at the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office.
We had not contacted anyone or spoken to the police in any sort of way. We were frankly a little bit nervous to go talk to anybody, and that was who the coroner we were talking to recommended we go see.
In fact, in that meeting with Sheriff Lemon, that's one of the things I expressed to him is I said, I hesitate to even tell you because I don't know who I can trust in this town, because I already know that somebody with at least what was reported to me as an official capacity was involved in the ransacking of my brother's house.
Bowling told them everything she'd found in the videos, but nothing happened. The weeks turned to months, and after calls and emails to the sheriff's office, Slade's family never got confirmation of an investigation, and we found out why. We got this letter from Sheriff Charles Lemon in October 2021. The sheriff confirmed his office never opened an investigation into Tammy Bullock or into any of the other criminal allegations the Bowlings reported to him in January 2021. The sheriff writes, there was no incident report done, no interviews, no body cams, no tickets, no photos, no recordings, no warrants, no witnesses or victim statements. What do you think?
I think they were intentionally being deceitful. He specifically told us that they would start bringing people in and questioning them separately to try and figure out who did what and who took what, and that they would then help us recover those lost items. I don't think they ever had any intention of doing anything. They clearly didn't do anything. I think they intended to deceive us.
The sheriff says he had reasons. He wrote, since Slade's home was in the city limits of Bennettsville, it was the city police's investigation. The Bowlings say the sheriff never told them that. The sheriff also claimed Bowling had already reported this to Bennettsville police, so he could not investigate it. He even wrote that Bowling was not happy with the city police when she first filed the theft complaint with the sheriff. Beth Bowling says that's a lie. When did Beth Bowling contact the Bennettsville Police Department to file a report?
Never.
We showed the sheriff's letter to Bennettsville Police Chief Kevin Miller. Miller says the sheriff's statements about the city's involvement in the Slade case are not just untrue, but the opposite of the truth. When did you know videos existed in this case?
When I saw your report.
The sheriff claimed he contacted the county prosecutor after the January meeting. The solicitor told us that never happened. When you read this letter, does it appear as though the sheriff may be throwing the Bennettsville Police Department under the bus?
From what I've read in here, it appears so.
Sheriff Lemon ignored every attempt to interview him about his handling of the Hollis Slade case. 10 months after Slade's death, we showed up to give him one more chance. Sheriff, good evening.
How you doing?
Can I talk to you about this letter you sent us?
I'm good.
Why did you not investigate the Hollis Slade case? We found the sheriff at a county council meeting later that night. He wouldn't talk there either, but he shot video of us shooting video of him. Did the sheriff of Marlboro County keep his word to you?
No, he did not.
What would you say to Sheriff Lemon if you were in front of him right now?
I would say I'm very disappointed, Sheriff Lemon, that you led me to believe that you were going to investigate, pursue, taking care of this matter. I put my faith and my trust in you at a very vulnerable time in my life. And I guess I'd say angry and sad that that did not take place.
The Slade family hoped the state law enforcement division would help. That didn't happen until we came around looking for answers. When the state law enforcement division first looked into the Hollis Slade case, SLED told us and the family this was a civil matter and the agency would not investigate the claims against the county judge or her friends. SLED admitted this at the time, even though agents had not watched any of the video recordings. In the middle of our final disrespects investigation, SLED agreed to investigate. It took SLED and the South Carolina Attorney General's office 2 years to watch the videos and file charges. In July 2023, SLED filed felony theft charges against former Deputy Probate Judge Tammy Bullock and Charlotte Green, accusing both of stealing cigarettes from Hollis Slade's truck and taking that pistol and $2,000 in cash from Joy Slade's bedroom. So far, the other people in those recordings have not been charged. The AG's office will not explain why. Neither Bullock nor Green will speak with us to explain or defend their actions. The death of Hollis Slade and his family's fight for answers would blow the doors of the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office wide open. When lost trust, the fall of the Marlboro County Sheriff continues after this. The ransacking of Hollis Slade's home was just the beginning of our investigation into Sheriff Charles Lemon. The more we dug, the more we found. Within days of our final disrespects investigation hitting air, the sheriff's own men came forward. At great risk to themselves, they provided me a body camera recording of a jailhouse assault, a piece of evidence that went missing for nearly 2 years. This text just came out of nowhere. It was the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office lead investigator wanting to meet out on this farm outside of McCall. We're up here near the North Carolina line now. To be honest, it's a little suspicious. We spent the past several months investigating the probate court here in town, now the sheriff's office. Yeah, I mean, of course you'd be a little worried about that. Having never met this person, you don't know who they are, but we've absolutely got to go. There's no other option. When I got out of the car, a group of armed lawmen were waiting. Lawmen who spent years hiding in the shadows of the sheriff's office. One of them, Lieutenant Trevor Murphy, the leader of the Marlboro County Sheriff's Major Crimes Unit.
There's no more smoke screens, no more anonymous tips, anonymous letters, no blurred out voices or blurred out faces. This is Trevor Murphy from McCall, South Carolina, telling you what's happening, what's been done, and why it needs to change.
The others were afraid to be identified. Trevor Murphy stepped forward.
My guys met and we talked and we said, look, now's the time. I know bringing it out is going to probably cost me my job and it is what it is at this point, but now's the time. People are paying attention. Now it can't be covered up. I believe when you took my phone call and I presented stuff to you, I wasn't told, okay, I'll look into it and nothing was done. You looked into it and you got the public's attention.
They'd had it with the sheriff. Long ago, the group decided to go public and handed over a stack of police reports. The first report in the stack. This is body camera video of the May 2020 jailhouse tasing of Jarrell Johnson, a video kept from the public for nearly 2 years. Then days before we met the lawman, someone in law enforcement texted the video to Lieutenant Murphy.
When the cuffs come off and he made a motion to bum rush the sheriff, The deputy made the absolute right call in deploying his taser to stop that assault, which he did. The problem came after that. That deputy, who was clearly shaking on the video, clearly this is a situation he hadn't been in much, he was very excited, is trying his best to give lawful commands for that person to get in their cell. Every time that person tried to get up off the floor and make a motion towards the cell, that deputy was instructed by the sheriff, pop it to him, meaning deploy your taser again. Even to the point where the man was lying in the cell on his stomach, naked, he was tased for no reason. It was clear that it was a bad tase, and I told the sheriff that day, that's a bad tase. That's wrong. It was blown off. Try to go around and get the right eyes on it. We contacted ex-law enforcement. He was a current law enforcement officer at the time, but we contacted him through a anonymous number, and we contacted 2 media sources through anonymous numbers, letting them know, hey, there's a man at Marlboro County Penitentiary that's just been unlawfully tased. You need to look into the situation. Sheriff Charles Lemon was present. There's body cam footage.
Murphy says neither reporters nor the outside investigator ever responded. The video once lived on a squad room computer. This recording isn't the actual body camera recording. Another deputy used a cell phone to record the original video sometime after it happened. In the 19 months between then and now, someone inside the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office deleted the original recording.
Nothing ever came up. It was never looked into. The sources we reached out to never sought us out, never reached out to us, never followed up, never requested the video, never requested anything. And you're realizing we're telling these people stuff that's going on and they're not responding. We have no help. There is no safety net. You're taught in school, something happens, you tell the teacher. We tried to tell the teacher, and we didn't get the help we asked for.
After he turned the video recording over to us and to SLED in November 2021, agents spent hours questioning him. Murphy also handed SLED a packet titled Lemon Laws, a 76-page document detailing what Murphy and the group described as unethical and criminal acts committed by Sheriff Charles Lemon and others.
So many hands on everything.
In the final interview with SLED, Murphy decided to audio record that meeting. He did so after he believed SLED agents were working to make a case against him.
You could go in there right now. You could go pick a crack it off the street and go in there right now to that deputy room and delete any body cam footage off that computer whatsoever.
What are you listening to?
That's an interview I did today with SLED agent Mike Gifford on the packet I submitted to SLED a month or so ago.
What would they be calling you back about today?
They were, in my opinion, trying to accuse me of deleting evidence on behalf of the sheriff. The same evidence I provided them a month ago, along with other stuff. They're trying to say that they're insinuating that I deleted that evidence or somehow got rid of that evidence on behalf of the sheriff.
Murphy didn't know it because SLED didn't tell him then, but the state planned to ask the Marlboro County Grand Jury for indictments for what happened in this video.
When stuff's happened at the sheriff's office, we reached out through anonymous sources and through third parties to try to get their attention and get their assistance on it, along with media outlets, and nobody bit.
Murphy signed Johnson's arrest warrant in May 2020, including the fact video existed. The lieutenant says he didn't delete the body camera recording and has no idea who did. Murphy says he told SLED anyone who's ever walked into the squad room is a suspect, and took us inside to prove it.
I'm gonna walk you in the side door. We're gonna take one left and then another left, and we're gonna be in the deputy room, and I'm going to walk you to the body cam computer and show you how anybody off the street can access this computer and delete video footage, not even just a deputy. There's the password to the computer if it was locked. For instance, you go into this, body cam footage with dates, right click, and it'll delete it.
So there's no security on these videos?
Absolutely zero security, and I have stressed that to the sheriff's office for years, and nobody's cared. And we've been in here 45 seconds. You can walk in, delete videos, and walk out. And nobody would ever know.
5 days later, the state attorney general's office presented the body camera recording to the Marlboro County Grand Jury. When lost trust, the fall of the Marlboro County Sheriff continues after this. 1 month after Lieutenant Trevor Murphy sat with us for an interview, the Marlboro County Grand Jury handed up indictments against Sheriff Charles Lemon and Deputy Andrew Cook. The indictment meant immediate removal from office for the sheriff, but it was just the beginning of the story his own men would tell.
June 23, 2021.
Marlboro County 911.
There's a dead body out here. He's just in the middle of the road.
Could you tell whether it was a black male or a white male?
It's a black man. He got on all gray. I passed him coming from McCall. I was scared to turn around because I don't know what's going on. I'm out here in the woods. I'm scared for my life.
We're on the way to a site on P Bridge Road where we worked a homicide back in June of this year, 2021. A man was shot multiple times and left in the middle of the road where he later died. It was early in the morning, midnight, 1 a.m., where the scene is roped off right at the North Carolina line. And I immediately see somebody I recognize as a guy from McCall named Patches, just laying in the middle of the roadway in a puddle of his own blood.
Marlboro County Sheriff's Lieutenant Trevor Murphy says Ronald Thomas's murder was an execution.
And at that point I realized that this was no hit and run, and this was no self-inflicted wound, that this man was murdered. We called a break, had two eyewitnesses come forward, and they both implicated a killer. Somebody they knew, somebody they recognized, and somebody they observed take the life and kill Patches.
Murphy says they found the suspect and had evidence to disprove the alibi he gave them.
We have an offender who's given us an alibi that we have completely blown through and discredited. And at this point, it was time to speak with the solicitor and seek charges out against the shooter. The investigators brought the evidence before our solicitor, who reviewed everything and confirmed that we had enough to move forward with charges, at which point an affidavit was drawn up for murder and presented to the magistrate judge and approved.
But the murder case is still open today, and charges were never filed. The lawmen say one person stood in the way, Marlboro County Sheriff Charles Lemon.
But unfortunately, once we let Sheriff Lemon know about the evidence we gathered in our approval for warrants, we were put on hold and told to wait because he had another person of interest he wanted to look into first. Central 305, I'll be 10-8.
Murphy says he never got the go-ahead from the sheriff, but never stopped working to make an arrest.
Log S77 check, the Greasy Corner in McCall.
We were on patrol with Murphy in December 2021 when he spotted Patches' widow, who's still waiting for justice in her husband's murder.
Hey, gal.
How you doing?
Good, you doing all right? How you holding up?
I'm making it.
You need anything?
No, I'm good.
We're still working.
I know.
We're still working on it.
I know they was telling me about it.
Okay. We're still on it, so you heard anything new or?
No, no thing.
We're still on it, and we're gonna make something happen.
I know y'all are.
So
I appreciate it.
let me know if you need anything, all right?
Thanks, bye.
All right, bye.
Murphy says he couldn't tell her the whole story, the story of how he says his boss, the elected sheriff, was the only thing standing in the way of a murder warrant.
Absolutely. If Sheriff had not interfered, if he would just allowed us to do our job and present the probable cause that was established and seek out that warrant, then a person who was seen by two people to take a life would be in jail right now.
We found Sheriff Charles Lemon in December as he emptied his patrol truck just hours after his indictment and the governor suspending him from office.
How about the P Bridge homicide? Your investigators tell us that you told them to hold off on securing murder warrants on that case in July. And here it is, December, and that case is still unsolved.
Lemon remained silent as he and a pair of SLED agents moved him out of office. Lemon and Deputy Andrew Cook were in a courtroom the following week, facing arraignment on felony assault and misconduct in office charges. Both pleaded not guilty in December 2021 and were escorted into the county jail for their mugshots and fingerprints. The Attorney General's office has not set a court date for them in the past 2 years.
Our ability to investigate cases has been taken away and access to certain things have been taken away from us.
Lieutenant Murphy told us this wasn't the only time the sheriff stood in the way of the Major Crimes Unit and their pursuit of justice. You sent this, Lemon Laws.
Lemon Laws.
You also gave this to SLED.
I did, and I felt more comfortable giving it to you than SLED. I believe in SLED. I believe that Chief Kill has a great agency that's very capable. But again, the sheriff claims to have so much power and reach, and there's no way of knowing how far that power actually reaches.
Or who to trust.
Or who to trust. Who you can trust in law enforcement, outside of law enforcement. I am absolutely terrified of doing this.
The day we shot this interview with Trevor Murphy in November 2021, he resigned. But he didn't leave the sheriff's office right away. He agreed to stay on another month and continued working with SLED as agents investigated Murphy's claims against the sheriff.
There have been people that have lost their rights, that have lost their freedom, that have had their civil rights violated, just mere safety violated because of how he is and how he's acted. And that's what that packet is it's incidents where he's violated people's rights, where he's extended the scope of what he's supposed to do freely and voluntarily to do what he wants to do and not what the law says to do.
We're working on several other investigations concerning allegations of your conduct in office. Do you have a way I can reach you so we can run those by you? I don't want to report that without you having a say, man.
The packet detailed other cases where deputies say the sheriff covered up crimes his unit investigated.
And we're kind of just sitting on go.
Murphy says the last thing he wanted to do was to risk his law enforcement career by going on camera and going public.
There's a thing in law enforcement, this blue wall of silence where you don't tell on cops, don't do this, don't do that. But to me, that's nonsense. I don't believe in that. Report it. If nobody listens at the sheriff's office, go to SLED. If nobody listens at SLED, go to the FBI. If nobody listens at the FBI, go to Jody Parr. So find somebody that'll listen, and once they do, let the Lord handle the rest.
On December 9th, 2021, 2 hours after his final interview with SLED, Lieutenant Trevor Murphy ended his career with Marlboro County. Is that it, man? Yeah. Trevor Murphy left the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office for the last time, and the interim sheriff never offered him his job back. Our hunt for Charles Lemon heats up again. Did you instruct anyone on your staff to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk of court? New allegations involving the suspended sheriff brought state investigators back to Marlboro County. Now, former Sheriff Charles Lemon remains free on bond, waiting for his day in court. But in July, our investigation into the sheriff took us in a different direction, down the hall from his old office, where state investigators soon followed.
Before you this time, Mr. Marcus Anderson.
Last year, the county grand jury indicted DeMarcus Anderson for domestic violence and violating a protective order. He missed his court date, and the court issued a bench warrant. The warrant ordered the sheriff's office to find Anderson and take him to jail, but no one went looking for him.
A victim kept contacting our office, and she was told that there was an active bench warrant from last fall, but the sheriff's office, the girl out there kept saying that there wasn't one.
Marlboro County Clerk of Court Joy Williams says she signed that bench warrant. She knows because she still has the original copy in her files.
Bench warrants are done, signed, sent to the sheriff's office, and we thought the people were being looked for.
But this was a little more serious than a simple paperwork error. Something was happening inside the sheriff's office that could have gotten someone hurt.
During my digging, I found out that there was a warrant that had been issued, but the warrant had been shredded by someone here at the sheriff's office. I contacted the clerk's office and let them know that the warrant had been shredded by us, if they could provide me a new warrant or reissue a warrant, that we would pick Mr. Anderson up. They reissued us a warrant the next day, or within 24 hours we had him in custody.
Mr. Anderson shares that he just got mixed up on his court dates. He had no intention of missing court.
Anderson went free for 8 months because his bench warrant was shredded. In August, the victim, who asked that we not show her face, finally got the court date she spent months asking for.
Judge, she's been on probation 5 times, 2 of which were for domestic violence with the same victim, and the most recent case was revoked.
I'm on grant a motion to lift a bench warrant. The information is just relayed here. A wedding's coming up. That record, things are too volatile. We're going to keep him right there. And you need to give him a little lecture about staying in touch with you and also making sure he appears for these court terms.
What I going to do? Seal it in? I'll talk to you. Come on. Man, hold on, man. No. The judge has made his ruling. Come on. Let's go. Let's fight. Sir, I'm just saying. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be running. Come on. Let's get up. Come on, man. Come on.
DeMarcus Anderson isn't alone. The clerk's office believes he's just one of more than 100 bench warrants shredded by the Marlboro County Sheriff's Office.
But we're thinking it's over 100, maybe close to 200.
The investigation into how this started led to an office just down the hall from Chief Deputy Larry Turner.
This is one of the file cabinets the warrants are kept in.
Chief Turner says one person was responsible for entering bench warrants into the system and getting them served, a warrant clerk named Sandy Wilkes. Wilkes has worked for the county for 20 years, including serving under suspended Sheriff Charles Lemon.
I actually talked to the individual here at the Sheriff's Office over our warrants, and she was advised under the old administration that any warrants that were issued by the clerk of court that they would not serve them for them to shred them.
Why would a sheriff in South Carolina give an order to shred a court document?
That I could not answer. I do not know.
Wilkes never responded to our interview requests, but the day SLED agents questioned her about the warrant shredding. We found her on her way out of the sheriff's office.
Can I talk to you before you head out? Were you ever instructed by Sheriff Lemon to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk?
That same day in late July, 2 SLED agents went to the Marlboro County Courthouse to interview Clerk Joy Williams. Agents spent more than an hour gathering information. South Carolina clerks have the power to issue a bench warrant. The Supreme Court's form even gives the option of the clerk or the judge to sign it.
Now, how many of those I signed and how many circuit court judge signed, we have yet to determine. Signing a bench warrant on somebody that's charged with murder because he didn't come to court.
Accused murderer Sharon Lamar Bennett was in this stack. Bennett was serving time at this Marlboro County prison in 2018 after pleading guilty to involuntary manslaughter in a murder case near Charleston. Court records show he used a shank to stab another inmate, Deshaun Shorty Williams, to death. When Bennett didn't show for a court date in June 2022, the clerk issued a bench warrant. The sheriff's office says that bench warrant was shredded, but no one knows when. Bennett moved to Michigan, where he was arrested on a weapons charge last year. The U.S. Marshals nabbed him there in January, and a judge sent him back to South Carolina and ordered he not be set free. Our hunt for suspended Sheriff Charles Lemon led us to Latta, South Carolina, a small town in neighboring Dillon County. We found Lemon driving a dump truck where he works as the town's street department head. Lemon wouldn't answer our calls or emails, so we found him on his way into the office.
Did you instruct anyone on your staff to shred bench warrants signed by the clerk of court? Is there anything at all you want to say before we air this report? Do you think those bench warrants signed by the clerk should have been served instead of shredded?
If you got any questions, talk to my attorney.
He will not return my messages. But this is a different matter than the court date. This is about the shredding of warrants. There's nothing you want the public to know? You realize there's a new SLED investigation into that now, right? Have they talked to you?
When lost trust, the fall of the Marlboro County Sheriff continues after this. The state investigation into the warrant shredding allegations against suspended Sheriff Charles Lemon is ongoing. Lemon is scheduled to stand trial in March for that jailhouse tasing. If he's found guilty, he'll never carry a badge again. If he's acquitted, he could file for re-election the month his trial concludes, with a chance to return to office in January 2025. Either way, we'll be there and we'll be watching. Thank you for joining us for this Queen City News investigation.